Now, this is what I'm talking about. While the DNA upgrade kits for Studio Series Scourge they make him look cool, and I appreciate the fact that they don't have any kind of real parts forming. There's still a bit of a letdown in terms of like overall quality, fit and finish, that kind of thing. The upgrade kit for Legacy Armada Optimus Prime feels more like a return to form for DNA design, in that it's maybe not entirely as, I don't want to say flawless, but it's better. The thought and the thought behind and the quality of this upgrade kit is leagues above the upgrade kits for Studio Series Scourge. And I like those kits. But this one is better. Demonstrably better. And I'm, again, just talking in terms of like the quality. Because you can see it looks really good, and the stuff on Scourge looked really good. But yeah, so let's just get right into it. So, in this mode, the fully combined mode, the main differences that you get from the upgrade kit are platforms for the feet, which make them a little taller, the gun extension, new shoulder, not new shoulders, but new shoulder covers, longer biceps, new hands, new front skirt, the new chest piece, and around back here, you also get a little thing for the this piece, this little bit here, a new way for that to peg in, as well as a new butt flap that can open up or stay pegged together. Now, the reason why I don't have this up here is because this doesn't work. Like, it doesn't like to, what was that? Oh, that's nothing, it was just the little thing there. This doesn't like to stay pegged, it's very, very loose, this little connection here. So that's a problem, and also the way this lines up, it doesn't. So you can't peg this in like you used to be able to, which I find to be a really not great thing. I don't understand why they couldn't have just made it so that those tabs line up where they normally would, so you have the option at least to do this. But they didn't. So instead you can split this so it kind of gets out of the way. And then you have this piece here is just kind of like a little curved thing. You can plug this in here, and then this will just plug in here. And that gives this piece a place to go in the combined mode. You can, if you want, attach it to the gun here. But there's a thing about that, which I'll get to that in a minute, but the way this works is it just plugs in like this, and then you kind of bring this all back, line this up, and there you've got the other, more bigger gun. And this can plug in as you do. Problem being, that makes this gun so heavy that it doesn't really want to stay in his hand. Like, with that plugged in, it just falls right out. It is too heavy. And that means that this is kind of functionally useless unless you have them double-handed. Now, another problem with this set, I'm gonna try to go over the problems first, is you get these little gold pieces that are like, this is what the gun pegs into, and then there's these little tabs here. Little tabs go into these little slots on the inside of the palm. But if you use one, and you tab it in as it should be, peg that in, it doesn't work. It straight up doesn't work if you just use one of these things. And this was a huge problem for me when I first got this. I was just like, what are you talking? Like, this is ridiculous, but it doesn't work. But I found out what you can do is you just double it up. You just peg, because there's one for each hand, like one for this hand, one for that hand, with the idea kind of being it's like a parts forming version of the Siege Jetfire disappearing, reappearing peg hole. So like do that. But so there's one for each hand. Plug them both together. That gives you a much wider or much longer like tab that goes into that palm when you close up the hand. Like once all of this is in place, he does hold it. Well, he was holding it fine before, but now he doesn't want to. I don't know why he's suddenly not holding it well. Because before it was okay. I swear it was okay. There he's kind of... It's better. It's still tenuous, but it's better. But yeah, it's just the gun is so heavy that you kind of need to fudge things to get it to actually work. Just with how DNA set this up. And I don't much care for that. I wish that they had come up with a better thing than this. Part of it is just the secure, like the secureness of that tab is not great. So it comes out a lot. But if you want him to hold his gun, you have to use it. Because there's no other option. You can't, like those fingers are not going to just hold the gun. You need to have that peg hole in there. Otherwise it's not going to work. And obviously, if you rotate the shoulder, it's going to fall out. So yeah, not the best design. But it works well enough for what it is. It could be better, and again, it's like you kind of can't use that extra piece without double-handing it. In terms of hands, let's just get this out of here so we don't have to wrestle with that. The hands are, in my mind, a kind of an improvement while also being a step back. The lack of a peg hole, like a fixed peg hole, is a problem. I would glue this in place, but there is a reason why it comes out. And in fact, I'm going to just take these out and put these off to the side for now, because we'll get into that when we do the transformation. But the hands are better in the sense that you've got like a movable thumb, which is on a ball joint, a weirdly placed ball joint, but you get a ball joint, and they really like to come off, which is my other gripe with these hands. Those thumb ball joints are not secure at all, and they kind of unseat themselves really easily because of the way things are shaped. So like if you try and pull the thumb back more than this, it might either get stuck or unseat itself. You can kind of wiggle it up and down, but barely. This should have been shaped differently and attached differently. You get individual fingers where they all just move at the one knuckle, but they are individually articulated, and then you can also spread them out for some reason. Like, I'm sure there's someone who gets a kick out of this, but that someone is not me. That doesn't really look great and doesn't really serve much of a purpose for my interests anyway. You still get wrist swivel, but this thing's kind of in the way, and I forgot to fold that foot back. So yeah, you get wrist swivel, but that tab is really close to being in the way. It is in the way of the thumb. That tab there. Let's get that actually centered. That tab there is kind of in the way. As you rotate this around, that thumb's going to crash into it. And yeah, it's just the hands aren't bad, but they could have been so much better. I appreciate the individual fingers. I just don't really like the way that they handled the thumb and the display is kind of why. The shoulders are also... like, the shoulders are cool. I like the thicker shoulders. They don't tab together super duper well. There's a... this round, so you can actually see what I'm talking about. There's this slot here that's supposed to tab over this, and it does, but like it's not really a secure tab, it just kind of sits. And it sits at an angle, which is a little bit odd. But, you know, it gets them out of the way. And I think that's about it for gripes that I have with the kit in this mode. The waist section, you have the same deal as before, but now you've got a new hip skirt, or front skirt, that gives you individual forward hip skirt motion. So you can kick the legs forward and get you out of the way. And straighten this out. You can kick the legs forward without having to bring up the entire skirt, which is nice. They seem okay now. They were having trouble staying on when I first put the kit on, but I'm glad they seem to be working now. Let's see, what else? The feet. It's just little platforms that are plugged onto the toes. Just the toes, but there's, you know, because of the transformation. They plug on. I kind of want to try and glue them because they plug on just fine, but like you'll notice they kind of go at a bit of an angle. So when he sits flat, it starts pulling down here and causes separation at the front of the foot. So if you want that to be flush with the foot, it's going to be at this weird angle, and it just, yeah. It's not terrible, it's just I don't like that it gives him like little gaps at the fronts of his feet when he's just sitting there because it's pulling backwards a bit. It's not the worst thing, but it's a thing that I'm kind of like, that maybe could have been done a little better. The torso, you get this chunkier chest piece, which I like. It covers up the gray bits here, and it actually incorporates the original chest piece too. It's this piece right here. It's still its own thing. But now you've got these two separate pieces that slide back for the cab mode. And that also allows these to rotate backwards, and we'll get to that when we get to the truck mode. But yeah, so I like that it incorporates the original chest piece, just as like an added bit of layering and detail. Bulks him out, and looks pretty good. And then of course there's this thing, which is just a butt flap that separates so that now it doesn't block the, like it doesn't look as unsightly from the front. And incidentally, if you decide to get this upgrade kit for yourself, installing this was the worst time I've ever had trying to do a DNA upgrade. Because, well, not installing, but rather removing the original piece, because it's this one really long pin. You can just barely see it, like, in there. It goes all the way across. And you do get tools to push that pin out. But, oh my goodness, the amount of effort and time it took for me to get that initial pin out was ridiculous. The original piece, back piece here, that isn't here because I put the new one in, the original piece ended up getting kind of like warped, damaged, and stressed. Like it still would work, but it's very unsightly from one angle, from like the underside, because of just how much force I had to put into removing that freaking pin. But once I got the pin out, it was much easier to get this piece installed because the DNA gives you a new pin, and the new pin was way easier. Like it still required a lot of force to push in, but like it was nowhere near as ridiculous. And these little flap things are from the original piece. Those pop out and pop in. So yeah, this huge pain to remove, but I don't know that I could say it was worth the effort. But he does look better with having it kind of out like that. And now, last thing too is the gun extension, which makes the gun much bigger. I did have to modify this piece slightly because this peg hole here was a little too tight for this to peg into, and these are designed to peg into it. Like, this just would not go in, so I ended up having to take an X-Acto knife and just very carefully carve just a little bit around the lip, and that got it to be able to go in. I don't know if it was like a production thing or a design thing, but yeah, they peg in fine now. But this is a separate attachment piece that pegs into the peg holes that that these would peg into on the regular guns. So these flaps just unpeg, this unpegs, and now you've got like, it could be a secondary gun, so you could have them dual wielding if you wanted to. And again, that's just where these plug in. So that is what you've got for the extra gun. And if you let's leave all of this off to the side. But for anyone curious, the new gun is blast effect compatible. So the new gun piece will actually work with blast effects. It's a little snug, but that's fine, and this is malleable plastic, so I think that's totally better than it being too loose. So yeah, this works. Now, transform this guy. What I like about this is the transformation is more or less unchanged, except for like a couple of very specific things. So it's pretty much, it's Armada Prime. Just going to unplug this, leave this plugged in here, bring this piece together, take that together. Going to do the typical thing of unpegging this flap here and folding that out, pushing in these little bits on the waist so that we can disconnect the torso, push that in, slide this out, and we'll do this first. We're just going to go into trailer mode. Put this up, and this is, again, like very, very similar to the original design. The waist piece is different, though. One thing you want to do, you still rotate it around, but now, when you bring it up, instead of folding the whole thing down, this centerpiece has its own separate bit that folds in. And that just kind of folds it at an angle like that, and then these individual flaps fold down, and they sit right around these tabs, or right above those tabs. So it kind of sits like this. It's slightly different. And you rotate this around 180 degrees, rotate this around 180 degrees. This can just come up for now. Straighten out the legs, straighten out the ankles, bring this up, pop this out, and then pull this out as you do. It comes in, and this tab kind of nestles in there. That swings back in. Actually, we'll leave this out for now because we're going to need the support. Now, for this, you don't have to do anything with this. You just fold the foot in like you normally would, and then this flap now folds down. And that's that. It's very nice that you don't have to do anything different with regards to the transfer. Like, you don't have to remove the platforms. I really like that those can stay attached. Again, open that up, that out, slide this out, bring it around, put that in place, fold this in, fold this down, and there we go. This piece comes down. This piece goes in place, and I'm trying to remember how this gets situated. I always forget because it's usually a while between when I transform this guy. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, so this can peg back in here, and again, it's like super loose. So it pegs in, this comes in, and this will slide over the tab on the back of this. It doesn't seem to fit quite the same as it did in the original, and I don't know if that's because this is very slightly shorter or what, but this can peg in here, and this pegs in to the side of the leg. So get all this lined up, pegged in, and yeah, it's like something just isn't quite lined up the same with the upgrade kit in place. Same deal here, bring this in, and line it up, peg it in down here. Like once it's pegged in, but it just seems like this whole thing doesn't quite come together as well. I think things might be just either a little bit too long or a little bit too short. Like this section maybe is a little too long and it's like pushing things that way. I don't know. These flaps come in, these come in, and these this flap will tab into this piece. It will tab in. I've done this. It's just because of that weird fit, doesn't quite go the way that it normally does. So I'm kind of pushing up here, like pushing this way to try and get this all lined up and pegged together. Doesn't feel great to do. It doesn't feel like super scary, but I feel like if I leave this in trailer mode for very long, that is going to start stressing plastic. But anyway, take all that together. This comes in and tabs into the knees as it normally does. But I also noticed that with this, the way this all comes together, this tabs into the knees more securely than it used to, which I think is because now the knees are at a slight angle, and that just adds more friction, I guess, to the tabs there, and that keeps this in really nice and secure, but maybe a little too secure. But anyway, that is, oh boy. There we go. It's just a little bit on the doesn't quite fit exactly right side, but it does fit. It's better. It's way better than Scourge. So can't complain there. But yep, that is the trailer. Only real difference being the foot flaps and the waist section, which does stick out a bit compared to how it used to be, but I think that's fine. And so we'll put the trailer off to the side. Actually, we won't put the trailer off to the side. There's one more thing we got to do. We got to peg these on. And because of this stuff going on here, it doesn't really, like, it's not really going to peg into these spots quite right. So what you end up having to do is that's what these pieces are for. You purposely parts form them from the fists so that you can peg the gun into them and then peg those into the top of the trailer. So you end up with something akin to this. And that's fine. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of this approach. You could also peg them in back here. You can see too, the pegs are like weirdly really tight. And I don't know why. Like really tight. I guess it's better that they're snug, but it's kind of like, why couldn't that be, you know, how it pegs into the hands? This seems like that would be the better option. But yeah, you can store the guns up there. It is what it is. Now, let's transform this into first the kind of core robot mode. So we're going to do get the hands out of the way first, because they're fine. They're just, you have to, like, you want to, okay, let's zoom in so you can see what I'm doing here. You fold in the fingers, get that thumb situated, and the rest of it is pretty much the same. You want to pop open that door. You can get this. Oh, I see what the problem is. Rotating the wrist had it unseating itself from the mushroom peg. So yeah, you want to keep it like this. Then rotate it through like you do the regular fist. Rotate it through. Come on. I know you can do this. Rotate it through. There we go. Pull that out. Fold this in. And this doesn't really peg in like it did on the original. But, oh well. No, DNA decided to do it. Now, same deal here. Going to try and actually keep this on camera. And make sure that that hand is pushed forward. Curl in the fingers. Get the thumb straightened out. Untab this. Flip it around. Flip down the toe. Fold that in. And there we've got legs. I'm gonna straighten out shoulders. Back out again. We'll fold in the head. Got pushed in. And this is, again, like a lot of this is very similar to the original transformation. Unpeg these. Oh, yeah, want to get these out of the way too, because that will make the rest of the transformation easy, or easier. Out. Rotate this down and back. But now you kind of want to be a little mindful of this extra piece here. This little red piece right here that's been added on. And it doesn't super get in the way, but it is something that you got to kind of be aware of. There, there it is. Keep it on camera. So rotate that back, out. Back out again. These flaps come out. That comes up. This all rotates in on itself as before. And tabs in back here. And also, pardon, rotate these thighs. So now this can all peg together. This can just kind of stay like this. These can untab. And this can untab. And this can come down. And okay, yeah, here's these things, these extensions were, not a bad idea, but they do complicate things a little bit because they're not fixed. So it's kind of difficult to get the part to turn that you want. And if you're not paying attention, you can end up with the mushroom pegs facing forward, like the mushroom gaps. And I don't really like that look. But anyway, there we go. So all that's together. The shoulders can come down as you do. Shift these down. This comes down and taps into the chest. These panels fold back. And actually, I think what I want to do is slide just the new piece, the bigger chunk, down. Like keep that slid down like that, and that gives us the room to fold these back and in like that. And that just kind of cleans that up a little bit. And that is also straighten out the arms, rotate out the fist. But that is the core robot in its core robot mode, and he doesn't really look much different. The only real difference with this is that he is a little taller in this mode now because of those thigh extensions. Yeah, let's bring his smokestacks back in here. So, yeah, you've got little thigh extenders that I really don't... It's so weird because the way they designed it, like the way Hasbro designed it, is that these thighs were fixed, like screwed onto the hips. So in order for DNA to add the extenders, you needed to unscrew you had to take the entire leg apart in order to take the thighs apart in order to install the extenders, screw everything back together, and then it's just a straight up mushroom peg. So it was a little bit unnecessary in terms of complexity, but that's more Hasbro's doing than DNA's doing. I don't know. I don't know that it adds enough to make it worth it, but it does make him a little bit taller. So let's put him off to the side and see just how much taller it makes him. Bring in Dinobot. And, alright, well, it makes him now taller than Dinobot, so I guess if you're into that kind of thing. So with Overprime and Samus. And then back out of here. And bring in Burnout. There he is. With Burnout. And finally, there's the Core Prime. There we go. There's the Core Prime with the Duck Tank. So in terms of articulation, same articulation. The only difference now is that he has a double thigh swivel because of this. Which again, like I feel like if the bits that went inside the thighs were fixed, that would be fine, because then you just have to worry about the mushroom peg, but it is what it is. One thing I do want to point out, though, is these little red pieces that you kind of have to look out for during the core mode, or the torso mode transformation. Also, it would have been nice if this was... DNA came up with a way to lock this in place better. So these little pieces here, these little flap pieces here, they just peg in. They're just little bits that just slide into that little gap right in here. They just peg in like that, and this flap folds in, and it just stays like that. You can keep it like that for the core robot mode, or the you have to do it for the combined mode. But what's interesting about this is something that I really do have to give DNA credit for. This is really clever, and I really like this. How it looks like this piece would get in the way of the bicep swivel, but it doesn't at all. It's like perfectly shaped so that you can rotate that bicep around, and it just misses coming into contact with that added piece from every angle. And that's super cool. I really appreciate that. Why DNA can't do stuff like that all the time, I don't know, but whatever. Now, transforming Prime into cab mode, also very similar to how it normally goes. But before we get into that, I think I forgot to mention, if you like this video, etc., I have a Ko-fi and a Patreon, links to both at the end of the video as well as down in the description. Otherwise, like, comment, share, subscribe. That kind of support is just nice. I appreciate it. It helps. Now, to transform Prime into his cab mode, it is almost exactly the same as without the upgrade kit. Slide these up. Shift up. Just keep these up and out of the way for now. I'm going to pop this up and extend this out. This piece, I'm going to rotate these flaps out for now, just to get them out of the way. So those will stay up like that. Back here, want to open up these flaps and flip in the toes, and then close the flaps again, and the flaps will tab into the underside of the feet. Again, just, it's exactly the same as the default figure without the upgrades. The legs, you just straighten them out and peg them together. The flaps here, you want to bring these pieces down, hold in the flaps, and they will peg into the sides there. The wheels swing around and tab into the sides here, but unfortunately this one does not like to stay tabbed in. I don't know why. It just doesn't want to stay tabbed in. This one will stay. Like, I tab that in and it stays. This one just does not want to stay. I got it to stay like once. And I think, again, that comes down to like the fit and finish, which is, as I said, better on this kit than it was with Scourge, but still not old school DNA. Yeah, these just do not want to stay pegged in. But anyway, these flaps now dual swing down, and this comes down and just kind of tabs softly into the back of the foot section there. So again, just rotate this down, and these are just pegged in. It's just a peg that goes into that port there. So you don't have to do anything fancy to install these. They just peg in, and then you can keep them pegged in forever. Swing around. This comes in and kind of softly tabs in there. And that closes all that up. The arms, same as before. You want to curl the arms back, but before you do that, you want to take this little flap here from that add-on piece, flip that up, then angle this up, and there is actually a little spot for that tab to go. So you just kind of want to rotate the bicep a little bit so you can rotate that into place so that tab lines up there. And also rotate the fist while you're at it. And then this comes in, and also want to rotate that back. This comes in, and the fist will, or the forearm will tab into the side like it normally does. And then this can fold down to further cover up the fist. And there's that. Same deal here. Going to rotate this around to fold up this tab, rotate this up, and let's get that little tab lined up with the gap in the red piece. Rotate the fist, bring this in, and that will tab in right there. Go. Fold down the flap. And also want to remember to slide that piece out. And then to wrap all of this up, just gonna fold this up, tap this in, fold this up, and then bring in these little side flaps. Get all that into place. And yeah, this is something I don't understand. With the upgrade kit installed, for some reason, this one doesn't seem to like to settle into place. There's something about the way it's situated. It doesn't quite line up the same, and I don't know what's different. Because the affected part, like the shoulder assembly, is not affected at all by the upgrade kit, so I don't understand. But anyway, that's it. That is Prime transformed into a truck cab, and it's by and large not too different from the original figure, but there are some differences that I do really appreciate. Again, I wish these actually tabbed in, but whatever. This section is a little bit more extended. It's fine. I do like, though, how those red pieces cover up the gap by the window. So now that hides some of that. And also, this extra bit up here hides the fists really well. So like this covers them from the top, this covers them from the back. So the fists are practically invisible. Practically. It's a little bit wibbly in places. Some things wobble a bit, but it's fine. And I more than anything appreciate how good the combined mode looks with like the bigger chest. And I really do like these pieces that kind of fill in those gaps. I don't know that the thigh extensions / bicep extensions are necessary. I was really excited to get those new hands, and I'm not super into them now, but it is what it is. So there is tab, and even with the wheels not tabbing in like they should, they still roll just fine. Something though that is interesting, if you want to plug in the trailer, you cannot access the port when you have it oriented like this. What you have to do is open this up, swing this around 180 degrees. Not like, you don't want to swing it up like you're going into the robot mode. You keep this down, but you swing this around, and that gives you access to that port. And then this can come in and tab in as you do. As it normally does, we'll get these little struts up and out of the way. And that will peg in there, and there you go. You've got Armada Prime fully upgraded with his trailer. And this still rolls, just as well as before. You just have to do a little bit of extra work to get the port, to make the port accessible. And there's really no size difference in terms of the vehicle mode. It's slightly bulkier, but it's not any bigger, other than the trailer or cap section being just a tiny bit longer because of the thigh extensions / shoulder pauldron thing. So yeah, he's still a very big commander class figure. And just because there he is with the duck tank. And that does it for Legacy Prime, the DNA upgrade kit, I should say, for Legacy Prime. And this still could be better in terms of some of the way that the way that some things fit together or don't fit together, I guess is more apt to say. I do wish that certain elements were handled a little bit differently, but I really appreciate how certain elements come together. I think the hands, the thumbs definitely could have been better, but I really like the fillers here. I really like the bigger chest. I like the bigger shoulders. I do appreciate the bicep extension and the waist skirt fancification. I don't know. This is 100% not a necessity. You do not need to get the DNA upgrade kit to enjoy Legacy Armada Optimus Prime. No, absolutely not. It is not necessary to have fun with this toy. But if you really like Legacy Optimus Prime, Legacy Armada Optimus Prime, and you want to, have it do even more, then yeah, definitely worth getting. It is just a little bit tricky in spots. Yeah, I think if I just adjust the fit on the little removable pegs for the hands, get some Reaper labels on this guy, I think he's gonna be all set. It does look really cool like this, though. Anyway, bye.